Folks who went before us blazed the trail through history. The heritage they left behind is part of you and me. All the dreams they still live on, and it makes me proud to be a living, breathing part of it all, the American legacy.
Over 100 years ago, this gold mine echoed with the sounds of hammers and hand drills, picks and shovels, as men searched for that bright yellow metal that could bring them great wealth and power. Sometimes they would even dig out pieces of ore like this. Looks like the real thing, doesn't it? Its yellow reflection gives it that appearance. And yet it's not gold. It's what geologists call pyrite, or what the miners called fool's gold. This is what the gold miners were looking for. What to you and me would look like an ordinary piece of rock. But to someone who knows something about minerals, this is special. Because inside this small piece of quartz-like ore is over $600 worth of gold. It was dug from this mine many years ago here in the Colorado Rockies. Such discoveries led to the digging of hundreds of mine shafts and tunnels that still stand on the slopes of this and other mountain valleys in this region. It also led to one of the great gold rushes in our history. The year, 1859.
They found gold. Where? Out west, in the Rocky Mountains.
Gold! They struck it rich.
Thousands of dollars in gold.
Gold! They're finding it everywhere!
Gold!
Across the Kansas Territory they came. Up the river valleys of the Arkansas, the Smoky Hill, the South Platte. They were headed to a region that was mountain country.
I came out with the rest of them, leaving my home behind.
Historians guess that more than 100,000 people joined up in this rush to the Rockies, all willing to leave behind the bad times of the middle 1850s, to take a chance out west, perhaps to strike it rich overnight.
They're making it big at Cripple Creek. I'm gonna pack my bags and move along.
They stopped first at the riverbeds along the front range of the Rockies, panning for the tiny nuggets and gold dust that are often found in streams washed from nearby mountains. Almost overnight, towns begin to take shape, places with names like Cripple Creek and Denver City. For most of these 59ers, as they were called, their dreams of wealth turned quickly into a nightmare of failure.
Where is all this gold they told us about in them newspaper stories? I ain't seen none of it.
I've panned up and down this stream for a week, and all I got to show for it is less than 50 cents worth of the darn stuff.
If I could get my hands on the men that spread those lies about what's out here, well, I'd...
Waiting for Lady Luck to deal me right. I'm just waiting for Lady Luck to deal me right.
Disappointment and bitterness replaced earlier feelings of excitement and hope. Over half of the 59ers who made the long journey to this region gave up and returned to where they had come from. The gold boom was rapidly becoming a gold bust. And it would have been, except for what happened here on May 6, 1859. On that historic date, a man by the name of John Gregory discovered at this very site near what is now Central City, Colorado, the outcroppings of a rich lode of gold. A lode of gold is really a vein of gold ore, part of it sometimes lying close to the Earth's surface. It usually contains a high percentage of gold-bearing quartz rock. Gregory's lode discovery was one of the first of its kind in this whole region, and the news of it set off a stampede into these mountains that was unbelievable. Almost overnight, thousands of men and women invaded the area. Claims were staked, tents were set up, trails and crude roads cut into the mountains. Mining camps sprang up everywhere. Out came the gold, often separated from the ore by the use of the sluice, a long slanting wooden trough. As the ore was washed by water, it slowly tumbled down the trough. The heavier gold particles that broke off would sink to the bottom of the sluice and be trapped next to thin crossboards, placed at regular intervals. The amounts of gold found in and around Central City were staggering. People back east refused to believe the stories they heard. Newspapers sent very important men to see what was happening out west. One such gentleman, Mr. Horace Greeley of the New York Tribune, returned from the Gregory diggings with important news for the country.
Please be seated, gentlemen. Excuse my limp, result of a slight stagecoach accident near Denver. Now, what can I do for you gentlemen today?
Mr. Greeley, tell us, if you will, have you actually seen gold dug from the various mining sites out there?
Yes, gentlemen. I must admit that I've seen what one company took out of the ground at a cost to them of not more than $25. It was a lump of ore estimated to be worth over $500.
Mr. Greeley, how many people do you estimate are at the digging site at this time?
Well, I would venture to guess that there are some 5,000 men and women up in the ravine where I visited, half of whom have been there for less than a week. Approximately 500 new hopefuls arrive each day.
Have they all found gold?
No, those 500 new hopefuls are balanced by about 100 who give up and leave each day. Most of those who go away are convinced that Rocky Mountain gold mining is one grand humbug. Some of them have prospected only 2 or 3 weeks, but they've exhausted their provisions, worn out their boots, and found nothing.
What about the future of this gold rush and the region itself? Would you care to comment on that?
Well, as you know, mining plays an important role in almost every useful industry. 2 coal pits are already at use in the digging sites. A blacksmith has set up his forge and is busy making a good thing out of sharpening picks at 50 cents each. As towns and cities grow, so too will the economics and prosperity of this area grow. Gentlemen, mining will affect the growth of this region perhaps more than any other industry.
Horace Greeley said and wrote much about this region, often encouraging young people to come out here to the west and settle. Gold, however, wasn't the only metal that brought them to the Rocky Mountains. Here above Leadville, Colorado in 1878, 2 German prospectors, George Hook and August Ritchie, were convinced they could find a rich deposit of silver somewhere on this hill. The only trouble was they had run out of food and provisions and had no money to buy more. They needed to be grub-staked by someone, which meant being given grub or food and supplies for prospecting. In return, they had to agree to share whatever silver they might find. Grub-staking was a common practice in those days.
All right, boys, I think I got everything you asked for. Cornmeal, buckwheat, salt, and coffee. And those are the hardware implements and utensils you'll be needing. Oh, yes. Here's that jug of whiskey I promised you. Now, let's see. This comes to $17.35. That's what I figure you owe me. That right?
Yeah, that is right, Mr. Tabor. That is what we have to pay back to you.
And, of course, there's the usual grub stake agreement. Now, since there are the 2 of you, I'm to get 1/3 of whatever you find. That agreeable with the 2 of you?
Oh, sure, Mr. Tabor. That is what we have agreed to. You will share equally in what we find.
Good. Handshake will seal the bargain. Hopefully you 2 boys will strike it rich.
Incredibly, within 3 weeks' time, the 2 prospectors did strike it rich here on Friar Hill. They discovered the great silver lode that became known as the Little Pittsburgh Mine. Within a year from the time that the 2 Germans had entered his store, Tabor became a millionaire. He even bought out both of the partners, reinvesting his money in new mining property like this one, the famous Matchless Mine, which, by the way, made him even more wealth. Grub-staking prospectors proved once more that you always didn't have to dig out the ore yourself. Silver put Leadville on the nation's map. Almost overnight, it grew into one of Colorado's largest cities. By 1880, it even boasted of an opera house, built with Tabor's money. More importantly, much of the money made here in mining was put back into developing new agriculture and industry, as well as bringing in the railroad, all helping the region to grow and prosper. Of course, not all prospecting and grub-staking proved out. Throughout this region today is the evidence of the many failures, the disappointments, the ghost towns that remind one of this great historical era. Today in this Rocky Mountain region, the grubstaker and prospector have been replaced by mining companies, both large and small. Companies that have the needed money, the necessary machinery and equipment, as well as the trained people to find and dig out the important minerals that this country needs for its many industries. For example, on this mountainside near Leadville, Colorado, the mining of silver has been replaced by a different kind of mining for a different kind of metal. The name is even hard to pronounce, molybdenum. They call it moly for short. Moly is a metal that is most often used as an alloy with iron and steel to help increase the strength of such metals. Hence, it is quite valuable to many industries throughout our country. That land over there is also valuable because underneath that mountain lies almost 40% of the world's known reserves of molybdenum. How does a mining company go about digging it out? Well, if the ore lode lies close to the surface, the company may dig an open pit mine like this one. Some of these surface mines are thousands of feet across and hundreds of feet deep. With huge shovels, the ore is dug, lifted and dumped into sturdy trucks that carry it over to the milling operation close by. The mill is designed to separate the metal from the ore itself. Huge, complicated machinery is busy day and night, crushing, grinding, milling, and processing the ore. If the ore lies deeper underground, then the company must dig deeper, using a variety of techniques and machinery. Often the end result of early mining operations were waste dumps like this one. These are called tailing ponds, a place where a mining company stores the waste materials left over after separating the metal from the ore itself. Many times, people living close to such tailing ponds have expressed strong objections to such areas as ruining their environment. Fortunately, however, such ponds are now being reclaimed as more and more mining companies become concerned about the environment and the ecology of the region. Now companies are taking the responsibility of restoring the land as it was before the search for minerals began, even helping to make the land productive once more with trees, grasses, and crops that are so important to the ranches, farms, and businesses of the region. Mining plays an important part in our national economy. It affects every one of us, whether we live in Colorado, New York, or Florida, because almost every substance that man gets from the earth is obtained from some type of mining operation. In the Rocky Mountain region, this of course can mean moly from Colorado to help make high-grade steel for buildings, copper from Montana and Arizona, refined into various sizes of plumbing and heating pipes for our homes. It can mean coal from Wyoming to fuel our cities and industries. It could be gold and silver from Idaho and Nevada to make all types of jewelry. It could even be uranium from New Mexico and Utah to create nuclear energy within complicated reactors. Mining has played an important role in the development of this region from the time of the 59ers and the Silver Kings up to the modern technology of removing new important minerals for our industries. What about the future of mining in the Rocky Mountains? Will there be enough minerals for us in the future? And can they be mined efficiently without destroying our environment? These are important questions that need answers. The solutions may well depend upon you, what your generation does with this storehouse of minerals.